Hi, everybody. Welcome back to With All Due Respect. Hi, I'm Amanda Thebe. Today, I have on my pal, Selene Yeager. Yay for Selene. She is the podcast host of Hit Play Not Pause and the content manager for Feisty Menopause. She's a complete disruptor and I love her. And I can't wait to talk to her today. But she's also the top-selling professional health and fitness writer. You may know her from the book Raw, and also she's got a new book coming out, so we'll speak about that. She actually lives what she writes. She is a NASM certified personal trainer, a USA cycling licensed coach, a PN certified nutrition coach, a pro licensed off-road racer, and a former All-American Ironman athlete. So, you know, when I read this, Selene, I was like, all right, she's the same as me, only I'm just not as fit as her. We do have similar backgrounds, and I'm so happy to have you here today on the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
But it's true. We do have like a similar like background in like our sort of education, I think, and belief systems and stuff. And so I feel like I've got a kinship with you. But you know what? Neither of us saw us being in this place. Did you think you would be one of the forerunners in the conversation talking about menopause?
No, no, I never. I mean, I had talked about menopause, as I said many times, writing for Prevention magazine, which was one of the Rodale publications, you know, way back in the day. I wrote a lot about menopause when I was like 28 years old. You know, so again, I had no business writing about it, and I never really thought about it. Like, I never thought about it beyond like, oh, it's this thing out there. So it didn't ever occur to me. It didn't even occur to me until I started the podcast. And even then, Amanda, it didn't really occur to me how, what a liminal event it would be, like what a pinnacle, you know, I had no idea. Other people did.
Or maybe how important the work is. I think that's probably like the bit of a eye-opener for me, but you know, yes, you did have every right to be talking about it as a 28-year-old. In fact, I wish more people did talk about it in their 20s, because at least it gave you
like I had a right to be giving the advice I was giving.
Giving the advice, but at least you had, when it came to menopause, a bit more of a pragmatic approach, whereas like somebody like me who was blindsided by it with no education, felt completely lost. You maybe didn't feel that way.
No, dude, because all they talked about then was belly fat, the menopause. Like there was that's all we talked about. That's it at Prevention. Fit, not fat at 40 plus. I mean, I could die a million deaths.
Oh my God, I remember the fit, not fat.
So many headlines. There must have been 6 a year with those headlines. And so, I mean, no one ever talked about all that other stuff. They never talked about anxiety. They never talked about depression. They never talked about vaginal anything, really. They never talked about the millions of other ways that this can like upend you. It was always through the lens of your belly fat, all of it, all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe a hot flash. Maybe we'll talk about a hot flash, but that was it.
And, you know, from a predatory standpoint right now, we still see that. Right? If you've got a product to sell or a headline to grab, let's just hit them where it hurts, which is usually in our fatness or our age. It's one of those two. I always see. Can't stand it, drives me nuts. But back to you. So what's your menopause experience been like personally? I mean, you were a top level athlete. Right? Do you feel like that had any impact or bearing on menopause, and especially from everything you've learned? Like how did that look for you?
Yeah, you know, it probably did. I haven't really spent much time unpacking this, to be honest with you, because it's odd. I live outward so much that sometimes I need to turn the lens back inward to you know what I mean? To sort of like put all that in perspective in my own experience. Like, you're asking me this question and I'm like, it's a good question. Because I was like, in now knowing what I know now, I know that I had started perimenopause when I was still racing around the world, because I was having hot flashes. I was having night sweats. I was having lots of crazy anxiety episodes. But I was also, training 20 hours a week, traveling all over the place, racing at a very high level and performing very well. So I think that level of activity and training probably did help sort of dampen some of the other things, but there was a point at which I was like, oh, okay, things are changing and they're changing quickly. And it was probably when I was around 48 or 49. Like literally I'd gone from racing at a very high level just the year before to feeling like not quite in the same body the following year. And I thought, this is what people are talking about.
And is that from a performance standpoint or just from an everyday living in your own self type?
It was 100% performance, because that was the only thing that would wake me up to that, right? Like, I was already having like the anxiety and all the other stuff and the sleep disruptions. But when my muscle seemed to disappear overnight and my body composition changed very quickly, I was like, whoa, okay, like something out now, this is hitting me where I live, so to speak. And so that is when, I'm like, hey, Stace, we really need to get on that book. And I don't even know if I can write it. It was that profound. It was a really, really pivotal time for me. And I was glad. I mean, I was lucky, to have Stacy Sims as a friend and a coworker in some ways, and to be able to sort of navigate it. But it rocked me in a lot of ways, because you have that. I've always made my living as a writer with a T, right? But my riding and my racing was a giant part of who I was, and it informed everything. And to have that carpet pulled out from underneath me so suddenly, I always figured like somewhere around 50, I got to slow the hell down, right? This has got to happen, like everybody does. But I think what happens with women, which doesn't happen with men, is it's like a cliff. Men do have a more of an off ramp, where I felt like, wow, okay, I'm done, just like that, like a light switch. And I was happy to learn that I wasn't, and we can get into that
yes,
later.
I'd like to. But that whole cliff analogy, I get that, and I hear that we both have large communities, and we hear this all the time. I've just woke up and I don't recognize myself. And going just back to what you said a few minutes ago, like the anxiety, depression, and those type of hot flashes, like the neurological impacts of menopause for me were the most transformative in a negative way. They're the ones that completely altered my quality of life, and I think they're the ones that really women have a hard time getting their head around, because it doesn't make a tangible amount of sense that you're going to go through a phase of life where you're going to stop having your periods. So why on earth would you associate depression, anxiety, brain fog, cognitive issues? I had migraines with Aura. They were dreadful. They were like,
I can't even imagine.
And I almost didn't even, it was that bad. But and I hear this all the time from women, and it's so interesting how, well, clearly the conversation's changing and we're trying to get that information out. At the time, for me, I didn't know. You just put up with it. You were just like, maybe this is just because I'm at the peak of my game or something, or maybe.
Well, when you train really hard, sometimes you get like, but the anxiety was new, but I like age, I don't know. I never would have, I might have had a teenage daughter, like all kinds of stuff could have played into that, but I didn't ever think that was hormones.
Yeah, me neither as well. And so when I was like told to me that that's what it was, all these, like the dominoes just fell in the right direction. I was like, okay, this makes sense. We need to really get that information out there.
Yes.
And understand that the brain actually goes through some amazing transformative things during perimenopause. But oh my God, like, thank goodness we know that the body has some type of an equilibrium post-menopause. I really love the message to women that, we talk about this, all the time between ourselves, this doomsday scenario that's like literally fed to us in the menopause world, that, like it's all downhill and it's all you're never going to get anything back. I really want to try and reassure women that it's not like that.
It is not like that.
So why do you think it's not like that?
It is not like that. Because you can actually almost graph it, right? Like when you look at the fluctuations in hormones, you can see like women have this like lovely orchestra and symphony until they hit that transitionary period where it looks like you're a Jason Pollock, where you're just slapping paint against the wall and the hormones are doing, you know, this and that. And that is what's causing that incredible disruption in your life. And then, you know, they do flatline and you come out of it a different place, but it's a more stable place. And you've been able to, if you have worked on it and done some, done some research and taken some measures, you can even that out even during that transition. And then when you come out to the other side, you are in a better place, you're in a more stable place, and you can continue to take measures to better that place. So it's not, nothing is the end. You know, it is a transition. Transitions don't go to dead ends. They go to somewhere else.
No, and it's a really important message to have, because I know I've got women in my community are freaking out if they're not on hormone therapy, that, you know, they're going to be, I'm not. and I'm not, and I don't know about you, but there's not one part of me goes, oh my God, I'm so worried about having osteoporosis or a heart attack or diabetes or being insulin resistant, because both of us know the science behind that. And we know the measures, as you call them, that you can put in place, and you can start now. Doesn't matter what stage you're at, you can start right now to improve your health and promote longevity, right? And it's a super important message that women know this, because you can live in your body without your fertility hormones, but that's a fact. And I think that women think they can't, and that's a real pity that that's the message that's being fed.
You know, Amanda, so I've been, what makes me insane, because I've been a writer in this space and all of these spaces for so long, is that we're not capable of not doing this wild pendulum swinging. I don't know why. Like, you know, I mean, we went from hormones will kill you to back to the fountain of youth and everybody needs to be on them, right? And I'm just like, that can we stop somewhere in the middle? Can we just like let this thing stop in the middle and realize that for some people, yes, like hormone therapy is a game changer and it will help you get through this transition. If you know, there are women who have like these joint aches and all this stuff. There are things that hormone therapy is very, very useful for. But this idea that we should all be on it and that it's a panacea of sorts is not true either. And there are people I have talked to, you know, who have worse moods, worse body composition changes. Like things don't get better when they're on hormones, right? Because the body is trying to make this adjustment, and we are all different. We are all N equals 1. We're 1, you know, so it's ludicrous to think that there is one answer for any of us. The idea here is that we can present information and this is what is happening and this is what is behind it, but your path forward has to be your own unique path forward, and it has to work with your own physiology. And it's great that we now know that like hormone therapy is by and large quite safe, right? Like it was, the risks were way oversold. The whole paternal bullshit of the medical system is insane, but it's also, let's not just pump them out like Pez dispensers either, because, you know, there's consequences to them. And it should be something that you think about. I think that certainly, you know, if you have vaginal issues, local estrogen can be a wonderful thing without much risk. But, you know, some people don't even do well with that. So, yeah, I wish that we could just stop in the middle ground and clearly look at what is good for us and not expect the world from anything, and not think anything is also like a doomsday scenario, because none of that is true.
None of it's true. And I think what's happened is, because it's really funny, because I've done a couple of other recordings before yours, and they've both mentioned this pendulum, because I think as intelligent women, we're seeing this, we're looking and we're like, why is the conversation gone so far back? And it is a step backwards for me when you're starting to promote something with benefits that really we shouldn't be doing, like a fountain of youth or whatever. So and you know, it's really interesting, because I was talking to you just before we came to the recording about the evolution of the conversation. And so like for me, my evolution when I first started going through menopause was like, it's so important that women know they can have estrogen as a first line treatment, and it should never, and we know women shouldn't be rejected by their doctors, and we know they still are, but hopefully that's changing, and it's a really important part of the conversation. And I really bought into the idea that really most women need to be on hormones, and I know that I've pulled back a lot because of that. And actually the main driver for that was my own personal experience, because I was one of those people that did not do well on hormone therapy. In fact, I didn't just not do well, I did considerably worse on it.
Right.
Progesterone had me almost suicidal. Estrogen made my migraine so bad I would be in bed for weeks on end. Vaginal estrogen made me get a super vagina, which is not super, by the way. It was almost like,
you know, you say that, I crack up.
I know, yeah, the whole baboon style vagina.
Maybe you're trying to attract a mate. I'm sorry.
No. But you know, I remember having a conversation with you, and one of the things I really appreciate about you, Selene, is that I've come to you with questions, and I've needed to discuss them out with you, and you've took the time to do that with me in a really respectful way. We don't always have to agree on everything, but like, so one of the things that you actually changed my mind on was the narrative. You posted something once on Instagram and it was like, we shouldn't be calling it a hormone deficiency. And I think it was about 18 months ago, 2 years. And I was like, but it is. Like, the medical texts say that it's a hormone deficiency and it should be treated as such. And in my mind, I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But then when sort of dug deeper and you reached out to me and said, Amanda, we need to change the way we talk about menopause, because as soon as we start associating something as a deficiency, it becomes a disease. It becomes something that then is pathologicalized, it becomes medicalized, it becomes patriarchal. And I never had even gone there in my mind. And so I really appreciate being challenged that way, because I've pulled back from saying that altogether. And I really wish the medical community would pull back from talking about it like that.
Because if you look at it in any logical, I try to always look at things in a really logical way. Like, if you look at it logically, it's not a deficiency because we don't need the hormones the same way. We're not ovulating, we're not making babies, right? Like, we're in another place. So it's just where we are now. And that's okay. Like, that's, you know, that's how I view it. It's just like your body is following its path, and you do not need, we're not menstruating to the end of the line, you know? So it's not a deficiency. And you and I are kind of living proof that you can live very well and very happily. And I'm still out doing my thing. You know, I'm not as fast, but like, that's time, you know, that is going to happen no matter what, without these hormones at the same level. And there's this idea, and it's funny that you bring this up, because I got challenged. So funny. When we wrote Roar, we had that whole group rise up calling themselves Forgotten Athletes because we didn't do enough for menopause, right? So like,
oh, I remember that now.
Yeah, we have addressed that. There's a whole book for Forgotten Athletes, and it's true. Like, once I hit it myself, I'm like, they're right. We need to do much more. But I got called out again in my own group for forgetting to address people who are on hormone therapy, who are like premenopausal women. And I'm like, time out. The advice that you're getting from all of us on, you know, the training and the nutrition and the lifestyle things, it doesn't matter if you're on hormone therapy or not, because Carla DiGirolamo said it great. She's like, no hormones. And she is a hormone specialist. She's like, no hormones, nothing is going to bring you back to that pre-menopausal state. Like, you're not on the hormone, and that's why they stopped calling it hormone replacement therapy. Because there's this, because in the name it sounds like you're putting them all back and you're just gonna be less like you were, and that's not true. It's menopausal hormone therapy to sort of like even out those wild fluctuations and help you mitigate some of the symptoms from all that wild swinging. But by no means is it, again, that odd fountain of youth idea, like we're just gonna put them all back and you'll be just like you were. I mean, that's just not true. And if it was, let's be clear, none of us would probably be here, because everybody would be like, I am just the way I was. And, you know, it's clearly not this panacea that it's being sold as.
And also, you know, when I've spoke to some menopause specialists like Carla, like they've had women that have like really needed hormone therapy. Like I felt like I really needed it. It just didn't work for me.
Right.
But that really needed it because of their quality of life. And they're like, I'm never coming off it. I'm never coming off it. But 5-10 years down the line, they actually start to feel like themselves again. And often most women do come off it because it really was more because it helped them with the symptoms rather than buying into the 100%. Idea that it's got that there are all of the benefits that go with it. And the thing is, what I get frustrated about when we talk about the benefits of menopause hormone therapy, we know that they exist, right? We know that the benefits are there.
Yeah.
But when you compare the type of benefits that one medicine will give you compared to the lifestyle things that we know have been robustly studied and actually improve all health markers and help with longevity, it's night and day. And so they have to work together. Like, and I just would really like more of that. Like, it's a piece of the puzzle, you know.
And that's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, all it is. Go on and on about this. I feel as though like I'm a bit of a broken record, but I don't mind actually, because then it helps to reassure women that, yeah, it comes down to choice and unique bodies and what the body needs and what it doesn't need, right?
Totally. And you have to really pay attention to what people are saying too. Like there was the same conversation happening in one of the social groups. And, you know, this woman was saying how she feels like all this energy and so much better and, you know, is performing way better and all of this. And I was just like, okay, so what, because there's many different definitions of hormone therapy. What are you on? She's on testosterone and like testosterone. And I was like, well, okay, like time out again. Like testosterone is actually not part of the typical hormone therapy course, right? And there's a reason that it's a banned substance in sport. You know, like I'm not judging. Like if you want to take it and you feel great and it's not giving you side effects, go forth, right? I mean, go forth, that's fine. But don't sell hormone therapy as like it's going to do all these things when you're using testosterone, because testosterone has its own effect in
you know, again, it's not for everyone. And from a medical consensus, it's only indicated for low libido. It's not
but there is a reason, Amanda, that it's banned in sport. I mean, it does.
I know that it has other benefits, but the point is that a lot of women will go and ask for that now, and your medical provider really should only be providing it to you if follow libido. That's what the consensus is for a reason globally. Anyway,
I might push back a little on that. Carla and I did a whole show that it might, you know, that is another paternal thing where she's like, can we consider this? Because women, if the idea is that it's part of the orchestra, right? So if it needs to be included as part of your orchestra's menopausal hormone therapy, not just for libido and not just for those reasons, then that should be able to be part of the conversation. But when you have doctors saying, well, women don't really make much testosterone at all, so they shouldn't have it, which is what she's hearing, I have a problem with that.
Okay, right. So again,
and if it's not studied, I mean, the stuff's not studied. Like you and I, and I struggle with this a lot, right? Because I like to present things from a medical point of view too, because I'm a science writer forever. But like, I've become acutely aware that things are not studied that should be studied. So then you don't have the information, and it becomes a self-perpetuating situation where like, well, we don't have evidence. Well, maybe we should look for some.
Right. Yeah. Here's the thing though, we have to continue to evolve here, because we can never say never to anything. I'm always open, and I can see how my mind is like shifted and my conversation is shifted, right? And every time I get challenged, I feel myself getting drawn back to the middle, and you know, it's such a happy place for me to be. It's sometimes a bit messy, but I feel like that's where the majority of people sort of.
It's also life. There's no. You know, there's binary. Very, very few things that are binary.
So let's talk about like where you are now in menopause. Are you postmenopausal now?
I am officially. I've never been, and don't tell Stacy, I'm sure she won't hear this. I've never been a tracker. I've always been terrible. Like my period would surprise me every month and be like, hey, there it is again.
Yeah. So when that's me too.
Okay. So when it came time to be like, am I meant like, I don't know how long. It's kind of been a while. And then I try to remember, I'm like, well, I think it was summer when I got my last one. So, but I am definitely, I mean, it has definitely been over a year. So I can definitely say that I am postmenopause.
So, you know, for myself, I'm 51, 52 soon. And I was about 48 when I sort of tried to go back. You know, I had these like mass evacuations. I had one every 7 months or something. And so I never quite knew what was happening. But I think for about 48 was the last time I had one. And easily the next 2 years were still very troublesome for me. And it's only in the last year that like things have just calmed the whole crap down. And
nice.
And that's, we know that to be true as well. And I think that's a really important message to say to women, is that the menopause transition can probably be the most troublesome. But even when you're post-menopause, you may still have things that like hang around for a bit, you know, until the body finds that equilibrium, right? In that new state. And are you struggling with anything at the moment, or do you feel like you've just got yourself back?
I feel like I'll probably like the sleep. My sleep is amazing. My sleep's very good. I feel like,
you know, everyone's going to hate you that listens to this. And yeah, whatever, Selene.
Well, you know, but I do feel like I've always run hot. Like I run warm. I think I don't know if I'll ever be free of like the hot flashes aren't as bad. I'm not like a sprinkler system anymore where it's just like projectile sweating. But I still get like waves, you know, where I'm just like, I feel like I need to take my socks off, or that, you know, that kind of thing. My moods are definitely better. That's definitely better. And I'm starting to, I feel a little bit more like myself on the bike these days, which has been nice. I mean, I wrote about it, you know, like the fear thing, the fear of descending on my bike. You know, there are moments where I'm just like flying again, and that feels really good. So you know,
that phenomena is something I write about in my book as well. I remember speaking to Dr. Susan Kleiner, who works with female athletes. Yeah, mm-hmm. And I really respect her work. And you know, she said to me, you know, that it's a known phenomena, and I'd love to know more about it, that during midlife, probably specifically through menopause, we see women lose belief in their athletic ability. We see them become fearful, scared, anxious. Potentially it's because of the brain changes that we were speaking about earlier. But that directly correlates to loss of lean body mass. And I think that makes sense to me too. You know, mm-hmm. like we pull back, we don't believe that we can quite do it, so we don't. And one of the gifts that postmenopause has given me is I'm back. I'm trying shit. I'm doing stuff again. I'm jumping down off things, and you know, going faster and jumping harder, and the things that I actually thought had gone. And women really believe that they've lost that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And they don't. And like you said, like the brain, I don't think we can overstate that the brain physically changes. Lisa Mosconi's work is pivotal in that, showing that white matter and gray matter actually change. You know, they physically, if your brain is literally physically changing, it's going to impact everything. And that includes your emotional responses to that kind of stuff. And if you're physically going through all the symptomology, it makes perfect sense that you are not going to have your central nervous system working for you the way that you need it to, you know, whether you're mountain biking or swinging a kettlebell or, you know, toes to bar, you know, whatever it is, it's going to be disrupted, but it does not have to be gone forever. And there are things that you can do and to work through it. Just, I think the important thing is to give yourself some grace and look at it. I mean, I think that what I found to be, how can I say this? In many ways, it was a gift that I needed, that to have to take that, to pull back and reassess some things, because that kind of athleticism is all consuming, right? It's all consuming. And I used to sometimes feel like I was in a trap, like, because as long as I was doing well, I had to keep doing, I had to keep training, I had to keep training. And it was sort of a welcome relief to have this time to say, what is next? Like there needs to be another level here. There needs to be something else. And it gave me a chance to ride more with my family, you know, like my husband is really happy to have me back, and to race at a level that makes me happier, you know, as opposed to just always be like very amped up and anxious and having to feel like I need to step on a podium. And that has opened the door for me to go stand up paddleboarding on a Sunday and to just engage my athletic self in many other ways that have nothing to do with standing on a box or with hitting a PR. And, you know, like one of my happiest races happened last year. I went down to the Big Sugar gravel event. You know, it's 106 miles or something like that. It's fairly hard. And I just lined up. I wasn't super nervous. I'm like, I'm just going to have my day. And I went as hard as I wanted to. I stopped. There was a pig at one of the rest stops. I took a picture with the pig. I had a hot dog. I had part of a beer. And I came in and I got third in my age group, and I had an amazing day. And I was like, that was one of my best races ever. Like,
fueled by beer and hot dogs. Love it.
Like, it was just such a, you know, did I win? No. Could I have? Maybe, you know, but it didn't matter because it. Yeah.
Right. But essentially, I think what I'm hearing is that you just took the time to take stock and just go, what's really important to me now?
It's a good opportunity.
And that's what I found too. And I hear that with other women. And when we talk about the positive aspects of menopause and how we can move forward and the gifts that it gives us, to me, that's one of them too. It's like, I do know that I make better choices that suit both me and my family. I also have created the best boundaries. I love it. I never used to have them, a consummate people pleaser, so I love saying no to people now. It's quite empowering to give myself that, like, permission to do that, essentially. And so, you know, as we come to the end of this recording now, I do want to sort of like put that to you. Like, we both really want to move the conversation into the positive. It's super important to us both because I know it's the driver of our work, because we have to give women hope and choice so that they can like forge forward. It really matters. We want resilient women as we age, right? What do you think, from a positive aspect, you've seen happen in the menopause conversation since you started the podcast and working with Feisty Menopause? Because we have both seen change. I mean, what positive change have you seen, and where would you like the conversation to go next?
I've definitely seen the conversation change in that the conversation is happening, right? Like, there was no conversation and now there's great conversation. What I really like about the groups that I am part of, the Hit Play Not Pause group and the Feisty Menopause group, is that it's enormously supportive. It's a very positive, supportive group. I mean, they're not interested in all the negativity, but by and large. So that alone, I think that the conversations of helping one another and lifting one another up have been amazing. Like, that makes my heart swell, because that's what I had hoped for, but it's beyond anything that I hoped for.
It's
like
not a conflicting space at all.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's like the biggest team ever. And I love that. It's really, really cool. It's literally women helping women and not any of the negative stereotypes that I grew up with, like, oh, women are catty and, you know, like, it's none of that. It's not at all. It's really, really great. And I love that, you know. And if I had one wish, it would just be that we would never talk about menopause and all that again. Like, the negative conversation around body image is still so heartbreaking to me. Like, that is the thing that I wrestle with continually the most, is just this mourning and this heartbreak around body image and body change. And I get it. I'm not being critical of it. It's just that, I mean, people can get, I wish that they could see that they don't want to get to the end of their life and have spent all this energy and time worrying about it. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
that
completely agree.
That
Yeah.
really, really bothers me.
And yet
because
we know
you're
it,
living
we
your
know it.
life.
Yeah.
You're living your life. It's here. You know, it's here.
Be
Like,
present. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get, and when you're 80 and you look back at your 50-year-old self, you're going to be like, damn, I looked great. Like, why was I so, you know what I mean? Like that happens throughout your whole life. I just, that, and that is the part which I think we started this conversation on, that is people are so predatory on, right? Like that's what, like, try this diet, you'll lose your belly fat, you'll have a tight ass, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, stop doing this to people.
Because it's where we're most vulnerable, right?
Yes.
So hit us where it hurts type thing. And but I know you and I both are quite keen to sort of like make sure that women appreciate their strengths outside of the way that their body is changed. It's so important. And I know I talk about like building a resilient mind, and I know you guys love to talk about that too, but it's just really just like reframing everything, because you know, I just think this is such an important time, and knowing that eating disorders and body dysmorphia rate like is on the peak during perimenopause makes me really quite sad. So I know we've got work to do.
Yep. And you know, the conversations are super important. And I was talking yesterday when we were doing the little book launch, we did a little internal book launch for Next Level, which is the menopause book with Stacy. And, you know, I kind of described all of this as like flicking on a light switch. You know, I feel like we all went into this space in the dark. We didn't know what was happening to us. We were alone. We were scared, just like you, the dark in all that means. And then as soon as somebody went flick and turned a light on, we saw each other, you know, and it was less scary. And just that alone is empowering, right? Just that act alone, even if you are still addled with all your symptoms or whatever, knowing why, knowing you're not alone, knowing that this is a tunnel, not a cave, is sometimes good enough.
Oh my God, knowing this is a tunnel and not a cave. You're the best. That's awesome. That's exactly what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like.
It's a sports analogy. People will always talk about how I'm going to the pain cave. I'm like, well, that's great because there's a bear there and you're never getting out. But like, you know, if it's a tunnel, there's a light at the end. You might not be able to see it right now, but there's a light.
There's a light. So listen, tell us where we can find you, and just give us a bit of information about the new book as well. I'm excited to hear about that.
You can find us at feisty-menopause.com. You can pretty much any channel you want to there. And I'm at Hit Play Not Pause. And then the book is called Next Level. And it's really that. It's like, this is the next level in so many ways of your life. And we deliberately made it sort of holistic. So, you know, it is about that mental piece, and it is about all the self-care and how we got here, you know, the cultural piece and the way to think about this time of life that isn't this negative drag that has been attached to it for so many decades. So, and of course there's training advice and all the rest of it, but it's just you know, I look at it as sort of a living guide to this next part of your life, which is honestly pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I look forward to reading it, of course. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I very much appreciate you sharing your story and all your wisdom. It's been so great. And good luck with everything. Thanks, Selene.
Thank you.
Thank you. And take care, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.